This is the assignment for the chapter 4 of the Future of Storytelling. Who am I? My name is MLucas. I'm a learning consultant with 30 years of experience. I specialize in leadership development, organization learning, and managing change, but with the purpose of helping people, individuals, team, or organization to innovate. As far as my private life is concerned, I love cycling, traveling, painting, and writing, and especially painting and writing what I experienced during my travels. Where I am from, I'm born in Brussels, Belgium, and I still live there after having lived for about 3 years in Italy, in Rome. And as you probably know, Brussels is the capital of Belgium and the de facto capital of the European Union. I live near the famous Atomium, which is known as being the Brussels Eiffel Tower. Belgium is this little, very tiny little triangle that you can see, which has France on the south, Germany to the east, and the Netherlands to the north. I'm going to talk to you about my 3 strong inspirations. The first one is a book. It's the book written by Virginia Woolf called Orlando, which I discovered about 20 years ago. Then about 10 years ago, I discovered another book, but it actually started by watching a film done by Bernardo Bertolucci called The Sheltering Sky, which gave me the desire to read the book it originated from, written by Paul Bowles, who happens to be more of a musician or composer than actually a writer, but nevertheless. And the third one is The Fifth Discipline. It's a business book written by Peter Singer. I have written for each of these pieces a summary of what it is and also why I found it so special. I don't think that I'm going to go and read it to you. I would like to really emphasize the fact that the reason why I loved this book by Virginia Woolf is because it's a novel that provides an analysis of the historically constituted subject, and it's really a critique of the gender essentialism, while it also explores the important issue of gender and creativity. I like the fact that in that book there are many conflicting elements, and also Orlando is reincarnating the key problematic of sexual politics and the tension between androgyny and the articulation of sexual difference. Of course, that was written at a time where women were still fighting for being allowed to engage into political life. And I think that's what Woolf tried to really have this coming through this wonderful book. When you finish reading it and you see the different pressures that Orlando is going through, first as a man and then as a woman, the true Orlando progressively finally emerged, and in 1928 as a fully accomplished woman, which really posed the question of why is it important to Orlando's happiness that she became a woman. The second book that I advise you to read, and maybe do like me, start by the film, is The Sheltering Sky. Not only I love the film because of this dramatic and heavy and pleasant atmosphere, but of course John Malkovich and Deborah Winger are playing beautifully into it, and there's beautiful landscapes as well of North Africa. The story is basically about a couple joined by a friend and feeling that their marriage is staying really in bad condition and going to break. They decide to do this very adventurous trip in a country which was not yet well traveled through. So why find that so special? Not so much because of the story, but for me rather in the way that Bowles wrote and captures the daily loneliness of living and describes beautifully time. Time is only almost suspended. Bowles wrote, "If I stress the various facets of unhappiness, it is because I believe unhappiness should be studied very carefully. This certainly is no time for anyone to pretend to be happy or to put his unhappiness away in the dark. You must watch your universe as it cracks above your head." Remember that this book was written a few years in 1949, at the end of the Second World War. A second reason is how the author explores the fear of the future and regret of the past. And as you will see here, both Kit and Port are driven largely by this new catalyst of fear and regret, and the impulsion drive them to catastrophe. I'll let you read a little bit more here what I wrote by finding about those characters. But, oops, Jesus Christ. Sorry for this thing. Port is a man of incredible control. The excursion into Africa was his devising, and he chose the route and determines when it is time to leave one place for another, which is really very selfish. And this whole trip is his only way to feel happy by sharing his adventure with his wife Kit. Nevertheless, at the end, it's going to dramatically finish as he, catch a niece as is going to die. How Bertolucci has captured this atmosphere, where he gravely conveys its theme of cross-cultural exploration, sex and solitude, as well as that spiritual journey. He transports us to a visually alluring and exotic alien world where we are brought face to face with the compulsion and yearnings which lie behind our alternating love and fear of life. I must admit that I love the film even more than the book. Last but not least, this business book has been really inspiring my life since I discovered it about 20 years ago. It's called The Fifth Discipline, and it's the art of practice of the learning organization written by Peter Sanger. Peter Sanger was originally working at MIT, and then he went to create his own department about the learning organization. And he describes how companies can rid themselves of the learning disabilities that threaten their productivity and success by adopting strategies of learning organization. And of course that, through this book he's giving a lot of thinking and inspiration, not only individual inspiration, but also the collective aspiration is set free, and people are continually learning how to create results they truly desire. So it's about how our action create our reality and how we can change it. It's a very powerful book, and the reason why I found it so special is it became like a learning guide for me. It has made me discover the world of mental models, how these condition our perspective and our ability to change. Through learning, we recreate ourselves, and we are able to do something we were never able to do earlier. We perceive the world as an interrelationship, so with feedback loops, understanding the cause and the consequences. And it's through this new type of learning we extend our capacity to create, to be part of the generative process of life. This book gave me a lasting hunger for deeper learning, which is called complex learning. Peter Sanger introduced us also in this book to the systems thinking, which is really the fifth discipline, and the conceptual cornerstone that underlies all the other 5 learning disciplines. The familiar solution is not only ineffective, so the way we traditionally learn, but because the world is more and more complex, it can even be revealing as being addictive and dangerous. Long term, Sanger shows us the insidious consequence of applying non-systemic solutions that have unintended consequences.